Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh boy, I know, it's getting insane. It's getting crazy. Yeah. Here's how crazy. I had guests over last night, and I can't believe I just did this thing I just did. Anyway, whatever. I had guests over, and they came in, and one of them said, boy, do you believe about Gaetz? And I had been busy cooking, actually having a disastrous time in the kitchen, trying to get ready for my guests. And I said, Gaetz? And he said, he's nominated for Attorney General. And I couldn't believe it. I thought my friend was pulling my leg. You know, as if he could have said Marjorie Taylor Greene or Gaetz. It didn't matter. I literally couldn't believe it, even after some of the other people in competence had been chosen. Matt Gaetz, Attorney General? What? And yeah, we're living in a here we go. And he's not even in the Oval Office yet. Here we go. This unserious man allowed to be, again, the President of the United States, and put there by a lot of unserious voters who refused to believe that he would do this time around what he did last time around, only more so. And he's not even in yet. And you can't keep up with the crazy. Whoa. Really something. So, and then I have to tell you, I guess by the time I went to bed last night, I had somehow gotten into my head that Matt Gaetz is Trump's choice for Attorney General. Okay. But just about 10 minutes ago, I see this headline. And you tell me if seeing this headline, you would doubt it for a while, a moment, your initial reaction certainly, and then you would reapproach it carefully, and because you don't want to be taken, you don't want to get had, because there's so much craziness out there now. You don't want to swallow just anything that comes your way. And this headline purported to be from the Washington Post, a publication that I generally perceive as legitimate and doing good journalism. Here's the headline, in case you missed it. The Onion wins auction to take control of Alex Jones Infowars. Now, you may recall, and it's been a long process, that Alex Jones, that outrageous, despicable conspiracy theorist who denied that that Sandy Hook had really happened, and then lost a huge lawsuit brought by the parents of those dead children. And that suit required him to sell off his holdings to pay them the tens of millions, hundreds of millions that the judgment brought down. And it happened in an auction yesterday. And here is, and I haven't read the story yet because I'm still trying to come to terms with the headline. The Onion. That's the satirical newspaper that came out of Madison, Wisconsin, about the same time I came out of Madison, Wisconsin. I knew some of the people that were on that started the Onion. Oh my God, the Onion? Okay, I don't even know what that means. So we'll read this together. The fate of far-right website Infowars will be controlled by the Onion after the Onion emerged as the winning bidder of yesterday's private auction of Infowars, founded by conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. Infowars is among the personal assets Jones was forced to sell after a bankruptcy judge told him he had to pay $1.5 billion, wow, in damages to the families of the Sandy Hook children. So I can't imagine what the Onion's going to do with it, but it just, again, how many? I mean, this is just like so emblematic of the insanity, the odd, through the looking glass reality that we are going to be living in now for at least 4 years. So the Onion, it's like Saturday Night Live now owning Infowars. The Onion will control Infowars' website, archive, mailing list, production equipment. Huh. I I don't know. I don't know what it means, but it is. It's funny. There's something funny there that the Onion, in its crazy jester-ish way, would have bothered even trying to take control of Infowars. And it is like the jester. It's like the Shakespearean, the clown, the fool speaking truth. And there's something, just wonderful. And the headline that the Post, wrote appears to be almost like an Onion headline in that you don't know whether you're to believe it or not. So there's just something wondrous. Um, I thank the Onion, if only for a laugh amidst the tsunami of horrors that just keep keep on keeping on. Wow. That's just perfection. So thank you for that. Oh God. Okay, guys. I'm still, I remember saying yesterday something of how, I kept saying I couldn't imagine Trump winning, and then the day after I didn't have to imagine it. It was reality, and so I found myself, and now I'm still in that same kind of thing where I can't imagine that Matt Gaetz could possibly become attorney general. And the thing is, even I mean, Republicans hate his guts. Everybody hates Matt Gaetz. Everybody. So Trump trying to elevate him in this way is just, I guess, another way for him to stick his finger in the eyes of the ass kissers on the Republican in the Republican Party. It's seeing if he can make them bow a little bit lower, make them give up just a little more if they have any left of their consciences or character. I mean, and I don't even know who I'm talking to when I say you are every bit as qualified as Matt Gaetz to head the Justice Department. You're every bit as qualified as Kristi Noem to head Homeland Security. Every bit as qualified as whatever that Fox News jerk, Hegseth or whatever his name is, to be defense secretary. And Gabbard, god damn, Tulsi effing Gabbard, guys. And I saw that Steve Bannon put out a tweet after the Gaetz, I think, thing was announced, and maybe Gabbard too. And it was addressed to you and me. And he wrote it with delight because it said something to this effect: suck on that. Crude, childish, and they're playing with our country and its security and its reputation and its standing and its power to own the libs. Suck on that. It's like we're being run by middle school boys, the worst, the bully boys in middle school. Oh dear. Okay. We have a felon in the White House. The chief law enforcement officer of the land was under investigation for sex trafficking, and the two both really like little girls. And the voters, yeah, they thought, this is the guy. These are my people. Wow. Tulsi Gabbard. She's another Putin babe. Tulsi Gabbard. She not only loves autocrats, she loves the worst. Not that I can think of any real nice autocrats at the moment, but like the most murderous, like Hafez al Assad, Syria. She went over to Syria, remember, when he was busy killing his own people. He killed more of his own people than the Israelis ever did. But I don't bother going there. she went over there and was really sympathetic to him. And he's a Putin puppet. So, and she's to head what? National security? Intelligence? What? Help me here. Oh my God. I mean, the Kremlin has taken over our government. Wow. Wow. Really astonishing. I yeah, she's supposed to be. Now, what'll be interesting, I guess, not that I'm even going to give a damn. I don't care. If Gaetz gets in, fine. Let the clown show play. Uh, because as we mentioned yesterday, none of these people are going to last because they don't in the chaos of a Trump administration. And they will be replaced by even more incompetent and horrific people. Wow. You can't make it up. Yeah, so Gabbard, the spot he wants her in is Director of National Intelligence. First of all, let's be clear. She has no background. And that someone in who would be in charge of national intelligence is palsy walsy with our enemies? Uh, yeah, suck on that. It's really okay. So supposedly, everything is supposedly now because this is also an administration that will defy the law. But supposedly, these people require, Senate confirmation, and Trump's party runs the Senate, so you would think that wouldn't be a problem. And they've got a bigger majority than the Democrats had or currently have for another month or two. But some of them aren't going to be able to. Some will, yeah, defy him at their own risk because they simply won't be able to vote for Gaetz or Gabbard or even perhaps this. Maybe the idea of having Gaetz and Gabbard's names come out is to make these earlier guys like Hegseth and Nome seem reasonable. I don't know. What the? Anyway, um, but we already know that Trump has said that he'll make recess appointments, which is something you can do without the consent of the Senate. He'll just wait till they go on a break and he'll put these people in. So and we saw last time around, he wasn't adverse to having acting heads of cabinets, people that were, in fact, never uh, consented to by the Senate, which is, of course, the whole structure, the system of checks and balances that the founders laid out to keep us from having too much power concentrated in one branch. And if you stop and think about it, as he's playing fast and loose with all of these constitutional principles, they could well end up in challenges in our federal court system. And even though there are plenty of federal judges who would just flat out say, no, you can't do that, it's unconstitutional. I mean, anyone, you don't even need a law degree. it's unconstitutional. You can't do it. But it would be appealed and finally end up where? Yeah, with Clarence Thomas and Alito and yeah, the Supreme Court, which before his term is over could be filled with like 18-year-olds, right? Because we know they'll ask the older folks to step aside so that young ones who will hold the institution in the thrall of these autocrats for another 40 years, 50 years can take over. Wow. Okay. So, all of that, I can't imagine. And I guess just we're going to have to get good at rolling with the punches and or not even reacting much because it's going to happen. This is happening. And I think the way to survive is not to react too much. So even though the initial reaction will be, as mine was last night, hearing that Gaetz had been chosen for Attorney General, is disbelief, fine. Then, yeah, shrug it off and be ready for The Onion buys Infowars and Tulsi Gabbard and whatever's coming today. I can't, just keep on keeping on. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what exactly to give you. More good news or more good news, did she say? Well, The Onion. That qualifies. Oh, okay. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to share with you because I'm like you. I'm sure I'm trying to come to terms with this reality, but also to understand what it is that our side did wrong because we had one job, and that was to elect Kamala Harris, and we failed. And because in 4 years there'll be another national election, we gotta make some. I don't know. We gotta figure out what we did wrong. And I know we don't necessarily agree. Some of us are looking over here, others are looking over there. But this much we know to approach the next time in the same manner with the same kinds of what? I don't know, talking points, organization, whatever, would not be wise. Excuse me, William. And so I found Charles Blow in the New York Times today having an interesting point that I think needs to be taken in. And it does have to do with the identity politics that are at the core of our party. And I suspect at the core of our loss. And his look at it is this. He says that if you look at the results, I mean, you cannot, the numbers don't lie. You see that all of those groups, those identity groups the boxes, I always think of them as little boxes on a hillside, little boxes that we put people in. And we assume that we have some of those boxes. There are boxes. Black women, that's our box. Black men, that's our box. The working class was our box for that was the identity of the Democratic Party, but that's not true. And Turns out that some of the other boxes that we thought we owned, apparently we don't. And here's an interesting quote by a woman named Rebecca Martinez. Wrong. By a man named Rashad Robinson. Rashad Robinson. He's the president of a group called Color of Change. And Mr. Robinson said that we got to come to terms with our tendency to do this, sticking people in little identity boxes and then thinking that we understand them, defining them by their little boxes. And he says this: when we think that people's identities are automatic stand-ins for their beliefs and choices, we'll lose them. And yeah, nobody. We are all individuals, and we have many identities. Our skin color gives us one, unfortunately. Our religion, or lack thereof, might give us another. Our gender, our geography, our professions, all of these things identify us, become identity groups. And when you start putting people in boxes and erasing their real identities, their individual identities, you're going to stop knowing them, even as you're certain you do know them. And so we've heard a million times in the last week that the Hispanic vote is not a monolith, that the Black vote, the Jewish vote, all of these groups, even women, white women, they are not monoliths. They are composed of individuals who are in lots of different boxes, if we insist on the box. And a fascinating thing that Blow points out, and I hadn't thought of this at all, in regard to the Hispanic vote. And you think, wait a minute, how could a Hispanic vote for a man who calls their people rapists and murderers, who denigrates their people? How could Hispanics, who themselves and or whose fathers and mothers or grandparents had come across the border, maybe even illegally, but had established themselves and given their children an opportunity to grow up in this land of opportunity, how could those people vote for a party that was using them as the demons they needed to energize the fear and hate that they thrived on? And Charles Blow explains. And this is where the aforementioned Rebecca Martinez comes in, because she explains. With respect to Trump, some Hispanics, it's not Hispanics, that's a thing we do. No, it's some Hispanics, and a whole bunch of them, think, well, I'm not an illegal. He doesn't mean me. And by identifying with that, they aligned themselves with power. in a bid for protection by being the good Hispanic. Oh, that's it. The Hispanics that vote for Trump are saying, well, he's not talking about me. I'm a good Hispanic. I'm not illegal. I, in fact, can be part of his group. And there are studies that show that a lot of Hispanics in this country who are here and who got here and have legal status do blame the current desperate crowd of Hispanics that have entered the country illegally. They blame them for devaluing their status. Because most folks can't tell one from the other. They can't tell the Hispanic who's been here for 2, 3, 4 generations and is doing fine from someone who came across the border last week and is essentially, in the shadows and on the run. But when someone who looks like you and comes from where you come and is put in the same box as you, if you're doing identity politics, is illegal and is the boogeyman of the moment, then you don't like that. And you try to disassociate yourself from them. I know they look like me. I know they're from the same place as I am, but I'm here. Now, status devaluation. I can see that. So the initial response is for us to say, oh, Hispanic men, macho, misogynist, blah, blah, blah. It's probably not so easy. So throw in this status devaluation, because that rings true to me. And it turns out it rings true throughout other historic migrations of people. In my box, Jews, okay? When my ancestors came, my grandparents came to this country, well, one was born here, and the other 3 not. So mostly my grandparents came in the early 20th century. And they were part of just hordes of tired and poor escaping the pogroms, murder, and horror and terror of being a Jew in Eastern Europe. Mine came from Lithuania, Russia, and that whole bunch of Jews that came around then. Lucky for them, by the way, because otherwise they and their progeny, me, would never exist, right? They'd be wiped out in the Holocaust. So those Jews who came were often uneducated, they were poor as hell, they were shabby. And the Jews that were already here tended to be German Jews and Spanish Jews, Sephardic Jews. And they were much more educated. Some of them had gotten very successful. In fact, one of them was a poet named Emma Lazarus. And she's the one who wrote the poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty about these immigrants. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse, the garbage, she called them garbage, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. It's wondrous. And to me, my life, it informed my sense of this country because it saved my family. And she was from a German Jewish family. And let me tell you, the German Jews and the Jews who'd made it, who were already here, were appalled at the wretched refuse that was streaming in talking Yiddish. Yeah, appalled. Why? Not because they're anti Semites, but because the danger of this rabble devaluing them. So, what the German Jews did, by the way, was brilliant and it was wonderful. It was self interested, but they ended up doing wondrous things. They started settlement houses. They made, and they did it here in Pittsburgh too. The Irene Kaufman Center. They did all this stuff where they took in the rabble, and they helped give them a leg up. They helped make sure they had education and had their kids, and were healthy and blah, 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 blah. And they lifted them up. But this idea of having one's own status, the people who got here before, being brought down by the still hungry trying to come in, who have the same identity. I think it's a very interesting fact. And the Charles Blow article also says this is true of the Great Migration, when when Southern blacks came up into the North to escape Jim Crow. The blacks that were already here were again in the same position where they had, gotten themselves, in relatively good situations. And Blow quotes a dean from Howard University writing to the editor of the New York Times. So this would be, I don't know, late 19th century, early 20th. And he wrote the editor of the New York Times, this black guy, educated black man. Should this influx of Negro laborers to the North, without proper restriction and control, be allowed to prejudice public opinion, the state of the race will be worse. So there's a educated black man publicly decrying the hordes of less educated blacks moving north and perhaps lowering the valuation and bringing trouble with them because it will define blackness down in status. So Hispanics, Jews, blacks, any group is in its and of itself a roiling mass of individuals in different positions and stages who will identify with different other groups for whatever individual reasons speak to them at the moment. Again, it's an argument for understanding that nothing is simple and that we're surrounded by complexity and now utter chaos. So we better, yeah, get real. Let's work on our core strength because we're going to need the core strength to keep our balance. Seriously. Hey, one of those incredible supermoons is coming tomorrow. Just putting that out there as something wondrous and natural that might elevate your spirit. And it is to be most astonishing at moonrise, which is exceedingly early. It's like between 4:30 and 5 p.m. Yeah. So if you try to remember to be on the watch for the early moon just coming up, it can look like this just huge thing. It'll be closer than it normally is and brighter, and it's the last super moon of the. We've had it seems like more than usual this year. Anyway, it can be a really awesome sight. Try to remember. I hope I remember. Try to be in a place where you can see it. Okay, something else that I came upon, which is not happy information, but stuff we need to know, is that the Electoral College, which is no friend to our side, that makes that map, post-election map, look redder and redder and redder. The scary thing is the Electoral College map is about to get worse for America, for us, and if you ask me, America. Because again, of the movement of people, migration of people. People are still abandoning the blue states and going into red states. And in doing so, the population of blue states is going down. The population of red states is going up. And so the next census, after every 10 years, we do a census, and the census then decides how many congressional districts each state will have. And after each census of late, since I've been here, Pennsylvania loses a congressional seat or two. And each congressional seat is an electoral vote. So even though we had the big 19 electoral votes this time, I can assure you that after the next census, we ain't going to have 19. We'll have fewer than that. And we're not the only state that's going to see that. New York, which has been reliably blue, it had 47 electoral votes in 1940. You know what it's got now? 28. And New York State could well lose 3 more after the next census, bringing them down to 25. Illinois, another case in point, continues to lose population. 1972, it had 26 electoral votes. This time around, it had 19. And next time around, it could well have 17. And while California will probably lose 3 or 4. And those are, as we know, reliably blue electoral votes that go into the Democrats' column. And the thing is as California, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York lose population, Texas and Florida are gaining, and others, Colorado, New Mexico, are gaining population. And that means they will have more, will, let's say, lose 4 electoral votes, but they are going to get them. And you don't have to, and I'm no good at math, but this kind of math I can do because it's just little 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. And it means that this handicap that we have had, the Electoral College, for all these years, is only going to get worse. So it will be harder to win. And if we don't figure out how to win, we thought we knew. This last election showed us, you took a lot of stuff for granted. We took a lot of stuff for granted. And maybe we didn't understand, and maybe we still don't understand. And I'm going to keep trying to understand because there is so much at stake. Continuing my attempt to, I'm sorry if anybody is chatting because I'm not seeing that. I've mucked up my screen again. I don't know what I'm constantly mucking up the screen. Anyway, I want to share with you something that Robert Reich wrote. He's suicidal, and he's been trying to come to terms with. Why can't I get this? Oh, just go away. He's been trying to come to terms with what the hell happened, and he makes the point I did. If we want to write it off as racism and misogyny, that just doesn't. It ain't good. Not that it wasn't part of it, but again, sort of like the Hispanic thing, it's more complicated. He says it couldn't have been virulent racism because we elected a black man twice, and it couldn't have even been misogyny since Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Trump in 2016. More Americans voted for the woman. It's just they didn't live in the right states. And they didn't turn misogynistic and racist in the last 8 years. So what is different is the low voter turnout in this terribly important. So there's some 9 million voters that didn't show up. 9 million. What happened, he says, to the 9 million? And he says most of them are working class. And he said it seems likely that they essentially said to themselves, I'm not going to vote for Trump because he's an asshole. But I ain't going to vote for those Democrats either because they just don't give a damn about me. And so he says this, that if the Democrats don't drop their elitist ways and get blue collar real fast, they ain't ever going to win with this electoral college set up again. He says it's a class issue, and we're upper middle generally. And he says it's clear that Americans across the board want a fairer economy. Nobody loves these goddamn oligarchs. And Trump is not going to deliver a fairer economy. And so we've got an opportunity here. But first, we got to come off our high horse. And it is a high horse. Let me get a caller in here. Go ahead. Hello.
Yes, another one, how do you explain? I'll give you a strange one, too, that really complicates it. I was telling you my son voted for Trump, but when Shapiro won for governor, he voted for Shapiro. And he's voted mixed ones in this last election, too, he told me. So how do you account for those people? They're just all over the place, so...
Yeah, it's not easy, and we can't figure it.
He doesn't like any of them.
Okay. Well, he's not alone. He's not alone, but it shows there is some discernment going on, whatever it is, on his part.
Nobody likes either side, but they just, you know. Now, I'm smart enough to know, and you're smart enough to know that the Democrats at least deliver something for you, but Trump's nothing. And
Right.
I'm still mad about this felon thing. I just can't get over that. I wanted to put a sign on my yard to say "Got felon," like "Got milk." I mean, do you realize they voted a felon in? I mean, I don't think people really care about it.
No, they obviously don't.
Lost that.
No, they think it was trumped up. Pardon the pun. That it was trumped up. That it was not that big. We can call him a felon, but it's not that big a deal. It was a bookkeeping thing.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, whatever. They wrote it off.
Did you hear? I heard that too. Now another thing I've heard is this was flipped. That Russia had something to do, and Elon Musk had something to do with it, because he talked to Russia and they changed the voting.
Nah.
Go his way. I think that would be, somebody would see that.
Yes. Listen, we don't need to go down the rabbit holes the other side does. No. This was a vote. Yeah.
Yeah, he won fair and square.
Yeah. Well,
not fair and square. He's a felon. He shouldn't be disqualified.
No, he won.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, hey, thanks. Appreciate the call. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm going to the next caller. Hello.
Hello, this is Father Joseph. How are you?
Oh, wow. Hi, Father Joseph.
It's good to hear your voice.
It's good to hear yours.
I think that with the National Security Council picks that Trump has made so far, it's not beyond possibilities that we may share intel with Russia in order to facilitate the capitulation of Ukraine.
Yep.
If we do that, that will have second and third order effects on our allies.
Yep.
Because they share intel with us as well. So that's going to be something to watch. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but that may be something to watch.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say is that some of the people who have voted for Trump will definitely have buyer's remorse, particularly the veterans. If in fact can you imagine the VA hospital in Oakland closing, or the one in Aspinwall, or the one in Butler? That's a rented facility. It's not even owned by the VA. It's rented for a number of years. So when those benefits start to go away, and vets are told, well, here, we got a deal for you. You can go to the private sector to get your care. I think that will be a transformational moment for those who thought that this was a good deal.
I still can't get my head, I can't get my head around that veterans voted for a man who calls them suckers and losers.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's amazing to me. There are some other issues that need more to people. Right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, and so, it's always easier to vilify others, um, and so I think Trump's been very good at that. So we'll see how it works out. But I think I think the midterms are going to be interesting to watch as things start to turn in the first 2 years. I think the midterms will be a good bellwether where we're headed. So we'll have to hang on.
That we got no choice. We got to hang on.
That's right.
Exactly. So wonderful to hear from you. Do it again.
Well, likewise, and keep fighting the good fight.
Okay,
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. Father Joseph, you may recall, was a veteran of long standing and rose rather high and was in the Air Force and was a chaplain. And he has two sons who are serving the country now. Wow. I want to note the passing of somebody who is a conservative Republican, a conservative Republican. And again, a man that was not easy to cubbyhole. This is a guy who throughout his career, I alternately loathed him and then celebrated him. And it shows again that people are complicated. His name was Theodore Olson. He was a lawyer, conservative. He's the one, he's so smart. I mean, so unbelievably smart. He's the one who argued in Bush v. Gore in front of the Supreme Court on Bush's behalf that secured the presidency for George W. But he also, in the course of his career, ended up doing amazing work before the Supreme Court and other high courts, affirming freedom of the press. He defended the dreamers, the undocumented kids who Trump's going to throw out, these wonderful kids. Ted Olson was there, was always there for them. And then he joined the guy who argued for Gore in Bush v. Gore, a guy named Boies, Boies. Remember him? He joined that guy, and they went after a law in California that banned same-sex marriage. And they won that. This unlikely duo who had been one for Bush, one for Gore before the Supreme Court, and then they join hands. Something so wonderful about it. And their triumph in California paved the way for the Supreme Court to legalize gay marriage. Ted Olson. Hard to cat stick in a box. We've got to stop identifying people with one aspect of themselves. Please stop. I mean, I'm working on myself in that way because it's a tendency that humans have. And it's something that Democrats have gotten insane about, if you ask me. Got to get back to Dr. King's content of their character. And it's complex. We can continue to write people off with one word: stupid, racist, this or that, and we will do so at our peril. Ted Olson, good man, gave us George W. Bush. Good man, though. Honorable man. The content of his character clearly tells us that, even if his politics didn't always fit comfortably with mine. I also want to point out one other fact that you might recall of his, is that his wife was, on September 11th, 2001, was on one of the planes, the one that went into the Pentagon. And they were on the phone together. She called him. It was his 61st birthday. And he stayed with her through impact. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being there. I am most appreciative. And let's do it again on Monday. Who the hell can even imagine the cavalcade of clowns that we'll be talking about on Monday? Who can even imagine? Not I. Not I.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.